Welcome, everybody, to this week's pilot episode of Reel Chums. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me is my co-host, Danny.
Join us as we break down movies, share filmmaking insights, and hilariously disagree on what makes a film truly great. Let's talk a little bit about who we are first, because we're just some chums who want to talk about reels or movies. That's what we want to talk about.
And we love to talk about them.
Absolutely.
I think this has been a passion project secretly for both of us. And then we chatted, talked about it, and boom, we're doing it. So thank you, Danny, actually, for hopping on this train with me.
Well, you know what, Marcel? It's funny because this year was the year that I was like, I'm going to try to produce all sorts of content that I can, because I've always kind of given myself the leeway. Oh, I'm working other jobs or I'm doing whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm doing something this year. I don't care what type of content or what it's going to be like, but I'm going to do stuff. And so I was really happy that you reached out to me and to do this, because I've done other podcasts. It's always stopped, but I'm excited to just take all the years of production and doing things I do.
Oh, yeah.
So a little bit background from me, like you said, I love podcasts, I love movies, but I own a production company, and I have been doing video production for the past 10 years and have been in this realm. And so, the idea to make a movie is something I've always wanted to do. But I love the internet because we can just create something and get it out on the internet and cut out that middleman process, because there is a lot of that in the film industry. And we'll probably get into that some movie or so whatever. Also, not a very critical person when it comes to movies. I actually just love watching stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see where we differ on opinions when it comes to some films.
And with that, you having a production company, having been trained, okay, I'm just your average Joe, okay? I took 2 semesters of filmmaking thinking I would want to be a filmmaker. After 2 semesters, I was like, nah, this isn't for me, okay? So I'm just like your average internet guy who's on Twitter. I'm not, okay, maybe step back. I'm not the average hater on Twitter.
There you go.
But fair. I do like to be on there. I love movies. I have a passion for it. And so I will give you your average insights. Whereas, Danny, you're going to provide us some incredible insights, I'm sure.
I sure hope so. And if not, you might disagree with me, but it's all right. It's all right if you disagree. Yeah. We're chums here. I actually this was a question that I heard in some other podcast that I wanted to ask you before we started, which was, if you could only have one movie to watch for the rest of your life, because today's premise of the main topic of today is like our favorite, or a movie that really impacted us, or is our favorite, but that's not necessarily the movie you'd watch,
right?
If you had only one movie to watch for the rest of your life.
I mean, I used to play Stranded Island, right? So pick your top 5 movies.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it's been like a good 5-8 years since I played this. With that in mind, though, I think, look, I absolutely love Ocean's 11.
Ooh. That's a phenomenal series.
It's just great. I love the interaction with the characters. I love how it was written. To this day, you can argue that Steven Soderbergh tricked the audience into believing one thing, but I just love the twist at the end.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those movies that if it's on, I'll always let it play in the background. Always.
It's awesome. I agree. I agree with that one. I was trying to think. I was like, I would almost not want to go with something super produced, but I kind of wanted something that was dumb enough that if it came on, because a movie would come on, but that's the only movie I could see, that'd be okay watching. And I think it'd be probably one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Okay.
But it's because I love the characters. And at some point you just if it was on, I'd be like, oh, I watched it. And then if I stopped watching it, I'd be okay, but I'd also be okay watching the entire films. So unless it was the last film, which I don't consider as part of the franchise,
the Hobbs and Shaw one.
No, Hobbs and Shaw was okay.
Okay,
it was all right. I mean, yeah, we can get that in another episode. But the final one that would they go in space or something, the 8th one. I don't know. I didn't watch that one because I just didn't want to. I was like, no, my ending was the 7th one or whatever. Anyways, that's probably what I would go with. Good or John Wick. That was the other one I was trying to debate on. Yeah. Just because John Wick is just it's a straight adrenaline. Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what I would need if I was living a life with only one movie. Must have been a really boring life.
No, it was a life full of action.
Yes, there we go.
Well, hey, for you viewers, we kind of want to talk a little bit about what the format of this podcast will be.
Yeah.
We're not going to be, week by week talking about what's happening weekly. Rather, we're going to talk about movies, break down maybe series. We will kind of break things into seasons.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about if we want to do X number of seasons yet.
Nope.
But that also will give us some flexibility,
Yep.
and for you viewers to also tell us, you know what, why don't you tackle this series or this trilogy or whatever it is, and we'd be more than happy to do that.
Part of it is because we are both family people. So
Yeah.
we have kids and, wives. So we want to make sure we have a balanced life. So we will do, for this first little bit, we'll probably cover just movies and kind of just go from there. And then, like Marcel said, well, we may, dive into the whole series section, or maybe like we'll talk about specific scenes, like talk about like what's a favorite scene or moment in a film or a series of films that we want to discuss and something like that. So we're excited to be doing that. If you have any ideas of things you would like us to cover, leave them in the comments down below, or send us a message on anchor.fm. Reel Chums. My hair is bugging me. So today we will have a segment every time we have a show where we discuss some of the news that is kind of happening in the film industry. And so Marcel has this week's two stuff, which are two pretty good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So this past week, it was announced that Phoebe Waller-Bridge, famous for Fleabag, she was the voice of Solos in the Solo movie, The Robot. She did the voice of his little assistant robot. Anyway, she has been hired to script and write the Tomb Raider series at Amazon. This is coming back off of, I think she just signed a couple weeks ago, like a multi-million contract to just do stuff for Amazon. And one of the things that they've assigned her is Tomb Raider.
Well, wasn't Fleabag part of Amazon? Yeah.
It was, yeah. And it won them lots of awards and great recognition. So I think this is a great move. And obviously she was one of the writers for No Time to Die.
I'm trying to look up her. I'm looking up her IMDb. I actually didn't realize that Phoebe also stars in Fleabag.
Yeah.
So she's the main actress, and so which I think just emphasizes how well she knows her, like the type of character she wanted to play, which I think is fun, because I really enjoy. I was recommended Fleabag, and I was a little skeptical because I think there was something else that she there was another series that she stars in prior to that's a little bit more British. So I didn't love that series, but it was okay. Like, it was good, but it wasn't like Fleabag. Definitely was. It was really good television. Like, I remember watching it and thinking, this is not like a normal. And I love that she would always break the fourth wall, right? And there was like this like kidding, like this jokingness of doing that.
She's one of the producers on Killing Eve, which I totally had forgotten. And Killing Eve,
I haven't watched Killing Eve.
it's so good.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I think I watched maybe the pilot episode actually, but that was one of the ones. So and she's a voice, yeah. So I mean, I'm excited for this one. I actually really love the Tomb Raider series. I mean, as a kid, I had a huge crush on Angelina Jolie. I mean, Bae for a long time because I love those movies. This is a question I have for you. Do you feel that Amazon is trying to since releasing the Lord of the Rings, the Ring of Power series, do you think that they're really trying to get into the game of actual like producing like top-notch TV?
100%.
Like, what is some of your thoughts on like why that's somewhat important, or not? Like, why should we be focusing on it in like a perspective of like someone who loves movies?
Yeah. A couple of reasons. I think one, you're getting these big like Amazons and Netflix just throwing money at these writers, and there's a unique shift. Traditionally, right, a showrunner would come to a studio and say, look, I have an idea for a pilot episode. They would pitch it. If it got greenlit for one episode, then they would air it, and then they would say, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you had, this rest of the season written out. Whereas now you have the studio coming to writers and saying, give us Tomb Raider. What would be your pitch for Tomb Raider?
right.
We own this IP. What do you want to write with it? And then they come up with 8, 10, 12 episodes for that one season. And so I think there's also a challenge there that, and I feel like this is part of like the issue with like the Disney Plus series, is that you have the studio coming in saying, make us Obi-Wan Kenobi. Not that Obi-Wan was bad,
Right.
but make us this show. There is no pilot. There is no test audience. It's just, we're going to dump a bunch of money at you.
Yeah.
And then you have problems like Book of Boba Fett, which in my opinion had that first episode, the first 2 episodes, the whole series was just not, it was just challenging.
It lacked.
It lacked.
It did.
And I think in a traditional, setting where you have a writer coming to a studio and pitching, I am confident 10 years ago, the Book of Boba Fett would not have been greenlit.
Oh yeah. No, I think a lot of shows wouldn't have been greenlit.
Yeah.
But I think so, because here's where this is my take on it. So when I look at because Amazon was the least involved in original content. I mean, they had produced. I mean, Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah.
What's the other one there was a couple ones that like they produced that were like they won awards. Like they were producing stuff, but they were not like they were just purchasing whatever that they could get to put on their platform, and a lot of it was just trash, like beat style movies or series, like or things that people like maybe got an award like some Sundance or whatever, just or some distributors trying to get some filmmakers. Nothing good. Like I would never like unless it was something that was original that came out. And even then, they weren't producing a ton of content, right? But they were okay with that because they were only really competing with Netflix.
Yeah.
And now the thing is that everyone gets a Prime membership with their Amazon subscription. So they were like, well, people were watching, but then it's not like a big deal. Mm-hmm. I think they got scared once Disney came into the mix. Now, I don't know the breakdown timeline yet, but once, we had Peacock, we had HBO Max, and all these players coming into the market, then we got what? The Terminal List. We got Reacher, which I really loved Reacher. Terminal List was pretty good too, but I don't know if they're going to renew that for another season.
Yeah.
Jack Ryan. Okay. And then I just watched this is a perfect example of what you're talking about. The movie with it's got Shotgun Wedding with J-Lo and
Timothy. No, it's not Timothy Olyphant. It's
is it though?
It's one of the two.
They look Josh Duhamel.
Yeah, that's
dude. But they look very similar. Yeah. I was getting mixed up too. I'm also, as a filmmaker, I'm terrible with names, so don't at me. Okay, but I don't think that movie would have gotten. You watched it?
I haven't seen it. It's on my watch list.
It's not bad. It's like a fun time, but like it definitely wouldn't have got greenlit if it was any other thing. But the thing is that like Netflix, they had like last year they had a movie every single week. Yeah. And if you think about that as a production standpoint, as like a studio standpoint, like up until then, Universal Studios, I mean, they maybe produced, I don't know, maybe like 4 movies.
Yeah.
In a year, right? You do maybe one in the fall. One in the spring, 3 in the summer or whatever, and then or like 2 in the summer and then 2 during the holiday season. Mm-hmm. But like movies were coming out all the time, but like studios like broke it up. But like one studio to put out not only movies but also series.
Yeah.
I mean that, like you said, that like there's something to be said about being able to do that as on the other side as a creative, which is why I think Amazon it'll be interesting to see what they come out with it, because Netflix has original IP that they're trying to pull in. Disney has legacy IP. Mm-hmm. What they have is they can pull in book authors. Now, what they have benefit is they have a platform to then sell additional content directly from their platform in books or posters or anything else. Like I was watching we were watching with our kids the Dr. Seuss baking show.
Okay.
And they have a whole website page that has the recipes. You can buy all the ingredients from the Amazon. You can just add it to your Amazon cart and do that. And Genius. I would love to know the data behind that.
That's smart.
It's
really cool. That's actually really cool. I didn't know they were doing that.
Yeah, it's like, you think how much has the Terminal List book or the Reacher books, how many times have people gone to a Kindle and purchased that book after the fact? So I really do think Amazon is going to be a big player in the coming years when it comes to like, especially because like the Ring of Powers was a pretty great. I mean, they spent the most money they've ever and that any show's ever received.
No, that's true. And I mean, going back to that, and the challenge there for Amazon is to continue to buy IPs, right? Buy content. They're going to continue to do those original stories, but I mean, they invested a lot with James Bond, right?
Yeah.
Now they bought Tomb Raider, so I think if they hire the right writers, obviously, and that's easy to say, but
yeah,
it's gonna be tricky to see.
It's gonna be the thing is like they take time, they take longer to produce a series, right? I mean, between Jack Ryan season 2 or 1 and 2, I think was like, it felt like I don't know what the breakdown is, but it felt really long.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the Rings of Power was in production. I mean, part of it's because of what they had to do, but was in production for a long time. Like we were waiting on that film, that series for a long time.
It was way too long.
At least.
Granted, like COVID hit and like got delayed stuff, but still, that was way too long.
Yeah, COVID.
Freaking COVID. I don't know if you saw this. This last week, Variety released like the top 15 streaming movies.
No.
Of 2022.
We'll leave this in the show notes, by the way.
Yeah, and out of those 15, I think like 8, over half of them, all came from Disney Plus. So you have movies. You have at number 1, top 15 stream movie was Encanto.
Oh, of course.
Then you have Turning Red, Disney. Okay. Yeah. You have Sing 2, which was on Netflix. Moana, back to Disney. The Adam Project, which was on Netflix. Hocus Pocus on Disney Plus. Don't Look Up on Netflix. Frozen, which is Frozen still?
You have to take into account like the thing that Netflix is trying to do is replicate what Disney has.
Oh yeah,
but for adults.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is like Netflix said, I think they call it laundry series. So someone's doing the laundry and they have a show on.
Yeah. Okay.
So like Emily in Paris is one of those shows that like is like one of their top performers, at least from, I think it was an article I read or something, but that like it's a show that people are turning on, but they know that it's not they're not like super attentive because like they do, maybe it's like, I think it could be that they're like, it takes them longer to watch the series or something.
Yeah.
Whereas like other shows, like I would say like Wednesday, binge series, they're going to watch it now. Now I have heard that Netflix is going to go to like the 1 week series release. I don't know how I feel about that, but
we can talk about that. But yeah, it's just crazy to see like, I mean, it's Disney. Disney just is going to own everything eventually. But yeah, I mean,
I hope not.
But yeah, I just thought it was fascinating how Disney just has such a strong play with streaming now.
Well, I mean, you have kids and kids are at home. You want to distract them or something, you know, like little girls want to watch Frozen 100 times a day.
Still, after what, 10 years since it came out?
I mean,
that's wild.
I mean, my second daughter, she went the whole, like my sister-in-law, her daughter's going through the whole, they want to watch Frozen all the time. It's just, it's something about the whole series or whatever. They just love it.
I've been watching it a lot this past like 3 months because of my kids.
Yep.
I have some thoughts on Frozen. I do. Maybe we'll tackle it some other time.
Next episode. That's what we'll do for the next episode. We should tackle. Okay, we'll discuss this afterwards. But good stuff. Sorry, before we move on from that level of variety, are there any Netflix ones?
Streaming movies?
So there's Adam Project.
You have Sing 2, which was on Netflix.
Okay.
You have The Adam Project, the Ryan Reynolds one.
Yeah.
That was fun. Don't Look Up, which came out in 2021, right at the end, but then it was streamed a lot in 22.
Yeah, but that was like, but that's like the first, like, no, Adam Project was like, it's like a hybrid where it's like, people want to watch it because it's it's Ryan Reynolds. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but it's still a kid show. Or, you know.
Yeah.
A coming of age story. But I feel like, was one,
Don't Look Up.
Yeah. Which I watched. And I think like, I thought, you know, they killed it in that movie.
It was great.
Yeah.
Great performances. Leah was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
What's her name?
Her name just escaped me.
Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Lawrence.
Yeah,
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence.
There you go. See, don't add us.
Yeah. So no, it was awesome.
But that's the first like adult.
That's the first adult one there. Actually, let's not just Netflix, but in that whole list, that's the first. Yeah, you're right. It came in number 7. Don't look up. But then another Netflix one was The Gray Man, which I didn't get around to.
Dude, I love The Gray Man.
Was it good? Yeah.
I'm a huge action movie person, and I read the book, and I really appreciated it not being like the book, but really kind of staying true to the character.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that Netflix does some more Gray Man. Like, I think they could do a whole like universe.
Oh, okay.
With The Gray Man.
I gotta get to it. And then the last one that they had came in at number 15 was Uncharted. The
Uncharted
Tom
for real?
Holland one,
It's because it's Tom Holland.
Tom Holland's a
teen
hot
girls,
topic, dude.
Teen girls, man, dominating the movie.
Which interesting because Uncharted did not do well on the box office.
It did not do well on the box office.
Critically, it did not also do too well. So it's just one of those movies that, yeah, like I'll wait for it to get to streaming to watch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about some stuff we're both really excited about, and hopefully you might be excited about. For you guys who are watching, is the new DCU James Gunn chapter 1A, because it's not the full. He said it's not the full chapter. It's not the
true. So context, obviously, I mean, you have to be living under a rock, but
or not like DC or something,
right?
I don't know.
Peter Safran and James Gunn got appointed to be the new co-presidents, co-CEOs of DC Studios. Discovery bought out Warner Brothers, so now Discovery owns them, and they were appointed back in at the beginning of October.
Wait! I don't think I knew that.
Discovery, yeah.
Is this the Discovery HBO merger thingy that happened?
That's currently happening. Yes, but
it's okay.
Yeah,
because
HBO is owned by Warner Brothers, and now Discovery owns Warner Brothers.
Now this is important because the problem up until this point, Warner Brothers had no real direction. They just kind of like greenlit, like if they felt like a movie was good or like they wanted to do it, they did it, and they were like there was like a weird thing where like they were trying to compete with Marvel, but it wasn't really competing with Marvel.
Yeah, because
the studios and what the fans and what like creators wanted to do was very disconnected.
Yeah.
So that's very important to understand. Okay.
And just yesterday, so then James Gunn, famously known for Guardians of the Galaxy, Scooby-Doo movies, okay, announced what he called Chapter 1 of the new DCU. And this should encompass, he said, about the next 8 to 10 years. But he also said that it's not all of Chapter 1.
Yes.
And he's titled it Gods and Monsters, which I love.
Me too.
I love. Not in real order, but here's kind of what was announced. So you have a Superman movie, Superman Legacy.
Which there is a comic book run of that. It's an amazing comic book run. Yeah. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you check it out.
Yeah. And he is writing. James Gunn is writing. He hasn't appointed a director. I would not be surprised if he decides to direct this one. And I have a couple thoughts on that. The reason being. But so you've got Superman Legacy. You have the first introduction to the new DCU Batman in a movie called The Brave and the Bold,
which I'm kind of really excited for because they're bringing Damian Wayne, which is his actual son, to the film because Damian Wayne was introduced, I think about maybe 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit less,
8-ish, 10-ish,
something like that. But he's kind of quickly become a pretty big favorite because he's really aggressive. I mean, there's already been 2 animated movies, 2, maybe 3, with Batman and Damian Wayne. Mm-hmm. So he's made his like animation debut, but having him be part of this new era means that they're taking some of the more concurrent or the current like comic books thread stuff into what is primarily always been like backtracking into like the origin with Batman.
Yeah. And I think along with that, it's about time we get a Robin on screen. Okay?
Yes, because it's been too long.
It's been way too long. And second, I think, and this is not like a dig at Matt Reeves or Christopher Nolan, but like we understand the psyche of Batman and like what a psycho you have to be to dress up at night as a bat and go out and fight crime, right? Like there's psychological elements there. But now the idea of introducing a Robin, a grown man who had no idea that he had a child, and this child was raised by assassins, and now he has to teach this kid about like, no, you don't kill just because they're a bad guy, even though like, yeah, the means could be good by killing them. You don't, right? So I think it's introducing on screen this dynamic of a father figure for Robin and Batman and Bruce Wayne, and just kind of navigating that. So I'm super excited for this.
What I also appreciated with this is that they're not demolishing anything else that this can be produced. Like the Batman, it was announced this morning? Yesterday that the Batman Part 2, so it's like the continuation of the first Batman.
The Matt Reeves,
Matt Reeves Batman is going to come out in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about that. I love that they have this Elseworld, like they're okay with this. Like, there's other stuff that's going to be produced, but this is going to be, which honestly I think is going to be good for them, because it just helps them say, well, this is a continuity that we want to help produce in storyline, but doesn't mean that other people can't come and pitch, or like the studio won't produce or greenlit some other series or whatever that has always been doing well or could do really well in the future.
And if you haven't seen his video, so he introduces by saying, we're going to kick off the DCU. We're going to continue to do the Elseworlds, which will be Matt Reeves' Batman, Joker, and Teen Titans Go. That's Elseworld. And then he said this year, 2023, we have Shazam, we have Flash, we have
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman and Blue Beetle.
Oh yeah, Blue Beetle. Okay. Which I'm excited for Blue Beetle.
And then we'll get into the DCU, the actual DCU. He did say though, however, that the Flash will serve as kind of like the
reset.
The reset, which we've kind of known and makes sense.
It makes sense. Which could be, probably is the reason why it was delayed. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because it was delayed. It was supposed to, there's a lot of other things that go into it, but
I was actually reading this the other day. Someone, I think we're coming up on, I don't know if you ever saw The Flash, the series.
Yeah.
I think it's like on its final season.
It's final season.
But someone said online that The Flash is coming up on its final season 9, 8?
I think so.
And it's interesting because the Flash movie was announced like a month prior to the Flash TV series.
Correct.
And we still haven't gotten the Flash movie.
Yeah.
It's been 8 years and we just can't get that movie out. But, there's other stuff there. But, okay, so we've talked about Superman Legacy, Brave and the Bold. You have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And I think that's actually, he mentioned that's going to be one of the last movies. You have The Authority. The Authority is a unique group of superheroes who think the world needs to be reshaped. It's really cool. I've read like an issue a long time ago, and just I'm gonna dig back into it.
Is it like The Boys to a degree?
Maybe ish. Yeah, I think.
Because my thought, I don't think they're going to compete with because I haven't read that run, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
But my thought was like I could see this being, because the way he described it, I was like, oh, this feels very much like not like the idea of what The Boys, these superheroes, but they're like some of them are unchecked, and like what that introduces. Whereas like, what's it have to like superheroes who take initiative in their own hands rather than trying to play by the rules,
which is great. I think, and you're also laying like a foundation from a story point of superheroes. Are they good? Are they bad?
Yeah,
you've got Superman and whatnot. So I think that one's exciting.
Me too. It's a book that's not like normal. Not like what we would normally get with Batman or Superman. Or
it's not your Justice League, but it's exciting. Next movie and final movie that he announced was Swamp Thing, which good. Like that's
well overdue.
They've been trying to make this for years, and it's well overdue.
Did you watch the series?
No, I heard it was horrible.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch it either.
I heard it was bad.
I didn't want to. I was like, I don't know about this. Not that I didn't. I wanted it to be good, but I think I remember seeing the pilot episode because was it CW?
Yeah, I think it was it CW? I don't think it was HBO Max. I could be wrong. I just remember like people blasting it, and it was just, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time on this. But yeah, so Swamp Thing. And then as far as like animation or TV shows,
It's a mix.
Yeah, it's a mix. He's kicking off the DCU with Creature Commandos, which is an animated show that James Gunn has. He said he already wrote
He wrote
the whole series, so that's awesome. Waller, okay, Amanda Waller. I love this.
When he said that, I legit was so happy because who plays Amanda Waller right now?
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis as she is
awesome.
Legit the Waller.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm like, how can you, like, she's an amazing actress and is being written, I believe, by the same people who did the Watchmen TV show, which was also phenomenal. Right? So I think it's gonna maintain, it's gonna have that, like Waller is a gritty person. She has to deal with the scum of the earth that these people have to put into place.
Oh yeah, and I feel like up to this point she's just kind of been behind the screen.
Yeah,
hasn't really been leveraged well.
No.
So I'm excited for her to have her gun. Maybe she'll do like her own missions, like be out on the field. I'm excited for Waller. That one will be awesome. And then Lanterns.
I'm really excited for that one.
That'll be great. It's awesome because they're introducing Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. So you'll have the two iconic Lanterns. And just the way he described it, it'll be almost like feel like True Detective.
Yeah,
but with the Green Lantern Corps,
which makes sense because like they're the police of the universe. So
their precinct is Earth. So I think that'll be awesome.
The fact that they made that one into a series makes me the most excited because it really does lend itself to a series because there's such a vast, you have the universe, you have the Green Lantern Corps, you could have, having them go to another location or like having to like whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that like having that in a series format really does provide us a great take for the Green Lantern. And it's going to be live action, I believe.
Live action, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully,
it fleshes out, especially if you're going to introduce two lanterns in one, right? I think you do that in one movie, it's not going to
My guess is that Hal Jordan will die at the end of season 1.
Oh man.
Because they'll introduce some other new character, some other new Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like what's the girl name? I can't remember her name off the top.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm already sad about this. It's not even come out. Okay.
I'm sorry. That's my we'll put a bet.
We'll put a bet. And then Booster Gold, which has been rumored for years, and they're finally doing it. It's great.
I never liked Booster Gold, but that's just me. But maybe it's.
But I think that's the character. You're not supposed to like him. Like he's just a dick. Like that's what it is. He's horrible. He's developed this cult following, and that's fine. But I think this will be like up James Gunn's alley. Like it'll just be a goofy, fun show. Yeah.
Okay. This does bring me to. Wait, is there one more?
One more. Paradise Lost, which is a story that'll take place in Themyscira, where Wonder Woman is at. He said it would be like
Game of Thrones,
like Westeros and Game of Thrones, which I think is awesome.
But it makes sense. I mean, and I think this is prior to Wonder Woman.
That's what people say, but he didn't specifically say.
I know that was the question. That was the thing that I was thinking. I'm like, at what point? Because in the picture that he depicted, it has women and men fighting.
Yeah.
So my thing was like, is this like why the island has no men?
I was almost thinking like, is this going to be like a internal political like factions within Themyscira are going to start tearing and breaking apart, and then you have like one group coming up and rising versus another, and then I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know if it's based before or after.
The thing is that Themyscira alone is a very interesting place because it's like lost in time, but they're like super strong, women. And so like it really will be, and this is towards the end of the line, right? So this would probably be what, like 2027 maybe?
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. So they'll have most of the, I think most of them, possibly only one movie, maybe Swamp Thing around the same time or whatever. So they'll have this established and we'll then know the rest of the next chapter. Because if it's monsters, what was the title?
Gods and Monsters.
Which makes sense, having them being gods. I don't know.
And I think, it plays well with DC, who the duality of gods, right?
Yeah.
You have beings like like Superman, right, who has godlike attributes and powers, but you also have like Zeus, who is an actual god in the DC universe, Ares and whatnot. So I think it's great. I'm excited.
I'm so excited. I think this is I mean, everyone knows this is well overdue, and I, for one, am very excited for the future of DC content.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna say it here, like I prefer DC over Marvel when it comes to like the comic books and most of the characters. Not to say I don't love Marvel, but I'm a DC person.
I'm a DC person. I love Marvel, but I'm a DC person.
Why? Why is it for you? Why does it? I have my opinion.
A couple of reasons. I think growing up in the 90s, you were just exposed to DC so much. You had the Batman animated series, you had the Superman animated series,
Legendary.
Justice League. You had already, in the 70s, you had a Superman movie. You then have like the Tim Burton Batmans. And so like I just felt that was so impactful. But you also had like big events like the death of Superman in 1992 that happened, right? So like DC was just so prevalent, I felt like, and so easy to access that I loved. One, I think I was just exposed to it more.
Yeah.
But then I think my favorite characters are Batman and Superman, right? In DC, my favorite characters in Marvel would probably be the X-Men and Spider-Man.
Oh,
Period.
I'm in the same boat, actually.
But yeah, I think I was just exposed more to DC.
I fell in love with DC when I started reading the comics a little bit more. So it was about when I was in college. I probably spent way too much on comics than I should have. But I think reading the comics, I felt that they felt more relatably real in some of the scenarios that they faced than in Marvel. Not to say that there was anything wrong with the Marvel perspective, but there was something to be said about that. Like, there's a whole run with Red Arrow, who gets into substance abuse, and Green Arrow having to help him like deal with some of that stuff. So like, I just felt like there was a little bit more real, and growing as an adult, or like becoming into more of an adult realm, and as a person, I appreciated that a little bit more because of that premise. We will be watching and talking about Ant-Man. Quantumania. That's a hard word for me to say. My brain does not want to compute. So,
which I'm very excited for. I'm excited for how it's going to continue to push the Marvel storyline. I am though hesitant based on like all the trailers. It feels like it takes a lot of place inside the quantum realm, and like
I think it's going,
and it's just.
But I think it's setting up Kang.
Yeah. I'm just kind of tired. Like I look at the aesthetic, I'm like, are we going to be inside this like quantum realm where it's like all like green screen? And I don't know. That's my only thing. It's just like I'm kind of tired of it. Like I haven't even seen the movie. I'm kind of tired of this like aesthetic. But that's just me.
2 side notes on this. This is the last little news things that I didn't put in the show notes. But one. I read an article that said the Eternals was the most watched DC or Marvel movie in the last that has been released thus far.
Really?
I'll have to find it. I'll leave it in the show notes. But which it was really surprising to me because no one really knew who the Eternals were. So I was like, what? Come on. I'm like Shang-Chi or like anything, like, come on. But I think part of it, they're struggling to set up this next phase, in my opinion. Now, the other thing I saw was that Hope, the one who plays Wasp, Evangeline Lilly, she said this is her like peak character. So she was just saying like how she's really excited for, just being like this role as a character. She is just surrounded by love. She, has things to be fighting for. She's got like peak of success. So I think that like it could be that like just the performance might be really well between Paul Rudd and Evangeline in just like how they are together.
Yeah.
So that's got me a little bit more excited to be for that.
I am very excited. I think I hate to say, like a lot of people are saying, like everyone's just kind of like marveled out, like too much Marvel. I'm almost there, but I think what's keeping me going is Kang. I think the actor John Washington. No, I can't
yes.
remember. Again, horrible with names. Don't add us. But I think he's what's keeping me like super excited about this next phase.
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors. He is awesome. His version of King in Loki was incredible. In these other shows that I've seen him, he's
a great actor.
He's a great actor. I think that's what's keeping me excited for this next phase.
Yeah. I think the thing is, like, as someone who's a filmmaker, they're just doing setups.
Yeah.
Every single movie up has just been, to introduce characters that may not be well known or whatever, and has been set up after setup after setup after setup. So even though there's payoffs in the movie, we know that this is not the end or whatever.
Yeah.
So that we're trying to expect for what's coming next, but we don't have that yet. And so it's really hard to feel like you're really invested when I think to me, what will be interesting is once face the next chapter before we get into like the second act of the Marvel series will then help us understand these first series of movies of this next, era.
I agree.
Of Marvel.
Yeah.
So
it's exciting.
It is exciting. Very exciting time. Really, that's why we're
here.
That's why we're here. All right. So I want to preface this portion of the next segment. Okay. When Marcel came to me and he wanted to talk about, hey, I want to do a podcast movies. We were talking about, okay, what are we gonna do for the first episode? About we could do a lot of stuff. And so I asked him, we should share 2 movies that are were our favorites, but also impacted us, and we would interview each other on that. So today were the movies that shaped us, and I did Remember the Titans,
So good.
and Marcel did Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Let's go. I'm gonna go with you first. I'm gonna interview you first.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, why? What was it about Jurassic Park? One, I always love watching Jurassic Park again. And as a filmmaker, I'm gonna give you 2 reasons why. One, it tells me how much practical really can help keep a movie timeless.
Mm-hmm.
2, it's reminded me how much we've come because I literally could probably make some of those scenes. I mean, Corridor Digital, who's a YouTube channel, has a whole episode where they recreated or they did a sample, like they did the same sort of like techniques that Lucas did for the Jeep and the T-Rex scene. Mm-hmm. It's a phenomenal watch. If you haven't, I'll leave it in the show notes. But those are the 2 aspects that I wanted to just like. I'm like,
yeah,
it was refreshing to watch something that even though it was older, it was still holds up.
Yeah, yeah.
So
no, that's great. I think for me, Jurassic Park, and I want to be clear, I love Jurassic Park. It is not my favorite movie.
Oh, okay. Right. There you go. But it was a movie that shaped you.
It's a movie that shaped me, and now I'll die on a sword for this. It is, in my opinion, a nearly perfect movie. Don't at me.
Why do you feel that way?
I'll break it down. So I think as a child watching this, again, this came out, which by the way, it came out in 93. We're coming up on 30 years since this movie came out. I hope they do a re-release in theaters. That would be great to go see.
Dude, that'd be so good. Especially after the tragedy of Jurassic Dominion. But
yeah, oh boy. But anyways, as a child, I watched this movie in theaters. I remember seeing a handful of movies in theaters before the age of like 8.
Yeah.
And Jurassic Park was one of those. And I think the whole movie experience of being in a dark room, the scene with the T-Rex coming out, right? To this day, like I get chilly and like cold watching that scene because as a kid, the rain, the hitting, which the sound design alone in this movie,
phenomenal.
I believe, I could be wrong. I believe it won like the Oscar that year, the sound design team. But the sound coming in of the rain on the Jeeps, the T-Rex coming out finally, and then it just impacted me so much. And it was the first time as a child where you genuinely used movie magic. That the phrase movie magic for me, that was the first time I started hearing it. I would ask my parents, like, how is that possible? And they would say,
Movie magic.
movie magic, something with computers, right? It's the first movie that used so much CGI at the time.
Yeah.
And so like they had no idea. They couldn't explain it to me. And it was like movie magic. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, movie magic, awesome. So it just impacted me so much in that sense. And now as an adult, it is so great to watch because the nostalgia of it, yes, but it also breaks down, in my opinion, as being one of the perfect movies. It is so clear the character development,
Yes.
the motivations of each character. Why is Sattler and Ellie going to the island? Why are the lawyers getting involved? Why Hammond is freaking out, right? And the movie just plays really well for those 2 hours.
Yeah. If it's not a movie that we fell in love with in the past, because I think Netflix is doing this on a regular basis. But I think that's why some people like they just watch a Netflix film and they're like, oh, that was good. But it's because we're so accustomed to having these huge elaborate, and like what I was saying before with Marvel, we're so accustomed to having these elaborate movies that are tying into a bigger
Narrative.
but they still have to have a beginning, a middle, and end for that film. But it become like, especially with some of the most recent Marvel stuff, it becomes lackluster.
Oh yeah.
To a degree, right? It's like, oh, it's a good movie, right? But like, well, what's going to happen next, right? You're not finishing the movie and saying that was good, right? I feel like Netflix movies is the place where we're getting that now, and I 100% agree with you that like Jurassic Park. When I rewatch this, I'm like, oh, this is just. It's like there's the setup, there's the conflict, there's the payoff, and you're like, you're good. And no, I don't know what the breakdown was, but I don't know if they were, it wasn't a time where like, we're definitely gonna have another movie. It was just like, it was done. It was like, this is what it is, and we're gonna be there. And I wanted to touch base on this. It won Best Visual Effects for Academy Award. So the Academy Awards for Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Editing. And I think these three things are the unsung things that help. I mean, performances, directors, and whatever are definitely a huge impact.
Yeah.
But the sound mixing and the editing have such a huge play into how we visually get an experience that in sound particularly. And I think that's why it holds up so well, is because even though the special effects, if you like are looking at it, what if you turned it off without sound, I'm sure you'd be like, oh yeah, that's like, but the sound, you get so immersed.
Exactly. I mean, everyone's seen Jurassic Park. We all know the sound when the cable breaks.
Oh, yes.
That it's engraved in us.
Yeah.
Thank you, sound mixing. And not just like the way as humans we have identified or think we know what dinosaurs sound like.
Yeah.
Is because of Jurassic Park.
100%.
Even though like in the last 30 years, scientists are saying like, oh, they probably sound like birds.
Yeah.
But like, no, a T-Rex sounds like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Right. And if you ever see like the behind the scenes, like they talk about like mixing some like the sounds of alligators and like all these different animals to get the sound of the T-Rex or the sound of the raptors, that high squealing like came from like a dolphin and other animals. So it's just the sound mixing is incredible and it's engraved in my mind for the rest of my life.
What's your favorite scene in the movie? Is it that the T-Rex car scene?
I think my favorite scene, as a child, my favorite scene was seeing Dr. Grant and Sattler and Malcolm. The first scene where the camera just pans over and you see the Brachiosaurus, right? And the music is playing and the valley and
like actually seeing dinosaurs.
Yeah, seeing dinosaurs. And you're about like 30 minutes into the movie when you first see that.
No, well, not only that, I was going to say the T-Rex with the car scene, that's a really long scene.
Oh, very, very long and so smart to not have any music playing.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that I forget about that scene, that like any other movie would have had like the big thematic music and boom, 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 right? Yeah. And this one, they decided to just no sound. We're just gonna no music. We're just gonna be frightened by the sound of the thump, the cable breaking, the dinosaur breaking. It's just powerful.
We get crippled as a video editor. I love video editing. That's probably my favorite part of the filmmaking process. I like working with people. I like, I produce all sorts of stuff. But especially with social media, we think we need to have fast cuts, we need to have, hype music, whatever. And sometimes we just need to take a breath. And I think like if you look at Mr. Beast just released a video.
Okay.
That is, he helped cure 1,000 people from blindness. And it was the most different film. If you watch the episode prior to what this episode was, it still felt Mr. Beastie, but it could feel, it was very different. He had a couple other people. It was a little bit slowed down. And I think, and he had more slow moments in that film in that video than he has in any other portion. And it did super well.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's something to be said that sometimes it doesn't always need to be go, go, go.
Yeah.
Or it needs to have like all the, music or whatever. Sometimes we do need to have those moments of like space. Right. Because if not, then how could we, as a storyteller, you're trying to we're trying to instill some sort of sense of emotion.
Exactly.
And I think that's why I'd probably agree with you that Jurassic Park does have this, it's like nearly a perfect film because it literally takes you on that journey and gives you the emotions that you need for the scenario. And you are left, it rises you get, you're like tensed and you get that release. The like, what is that called? Yeah.
Yeah, and even looking like at the end of the movie, right? They're on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Hammond has finally come to his senses and says, "Yeah, we're not moving forward with this park," right?
Right.
And they're in the helicopter and they're flying out, and then you have great decision to have John Williams' score come in and play that music, and the music makes you almost feel melancholic
Yes.
to the experience that you just went through,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so like smart and that's what's exciting about Steven Spielberg. He knows when to create those dramatic moments, like the T-Rex scene, and he knows when to say, okay, like we did it. Let's add the music here, John, and like the music comes in. Yeah. But going back to your question about like my favorite scene, again, as a child, that was my favorite scene, seeing the Brachiosaurus and everyone getting excited. But now as an adult, I just love the when they're having lunch in like the conference room and they're talking about like the ethics of creating dinosaurs.
Yeah. And they're trying the decision making of like, and that's a really intense scene. I think there's a breakdown of that scene somewhere. Okay. If I find it, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But I remember when I rewatched it, like it is a perfect, man, this movie really is I'm like, it's
perfectly written. Again, a screenplay by Michael Crichton and David Cope, just perfectly written.
The thing is like that whole scene has its own push and pull between each character.
Yeah.
They're all trying to decide what are they going to do? How do they want to go about doing it? And like the different perspectives, pushing and pulling against each other. You got that tension and release again and again. Mm-hmm. It's another set of dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's what's happening.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, I think that scene, and that's why I love Jurassic Park, because as a kid, I think the movie, it was like the first not adult movie, but like the first like adult focused movie that I could watch as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? Where I realized, oh, there's more to life than cartoons, right?
Yeah.
It was Jurassic Park. But now as an adult, like you can have these conversations which are still relevant, like of man and our use of technology. Like,
should we be doing, I mean, you kind of can, like, should we be messing with artificial technology?
Exactly.
And what is the impact?
And what is the impact?
And 100%, like, that's the thing is like, it's so good.
Yeah.
Man.
And the line from Malcolm, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should. I love that. I use that line like on a weekly basis. I don't know. I always find a way to sprinkle it in conversation.
But you know what? But it's the truth. I have people come to me and they're like, "We want to do this thing." I'm like, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that? I think the other thing is like I love the Raptors. I love the Raptor whole scene. That alone is also just crazy to think that like the way, because they had a guy, right? Like there was a person who has helped, and that's what helped make it feel so like you have the sound design, but then you have this feeling of like it actually being there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't remember when I first watched this movie. I really don't. But I do remember that whole kitchen, the scene.
Yeah.
And thinking, I would never want to be in that situation. I'm like, Like I remember, I don't think I had nightmares, but I remember thinking, this is scary.
This is frightening.
And I'm like being like, because they weren't like, the T-Rex whole situation, like they got out of there.
They got away. Yeah.
But the raptors were like hunting them,
Yeah.
and like as humans, we have to think, like it comes back to that, like should they have done that? I mean, we like to think we're the best things on earth. But at the end of the day, put a raptor in the same room and you have to question yourself, well, I guess I'm no longer at the top of the food chain.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's so good. I think, again, it can, to me, it's a perfect movie if you're looking at a way to like write characters with their motivations clearly laid out in the first movie. And it's not like done in exposition.
You're right.
In a tacky way. You break down the conflict, you introduce resolution, conflict again, and then the big resolution with the T-Rex family killing the raptors. But there's never like lagging in that movie, even though there are moments where we stop and think. And even the T-Rex is not introduced until like halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Right? So you're building up to this. You know that you as an audience are caught in the wonder and amazement of dinosaurs, but like it's gonna hit the fan pretty soon.
Yeah.
How is it gonna hit the fan?
Yeah.
Right. And then you introduce that, and it's just with a great resolution. I just think it's
fantastic.
Perfectly written movie. I love it.
I appreciate you picking that movie.
It's just it's great.
All right. Well, there was one other question I wanted to ask, which was, but how do you hope that this movie helps? Like, do you feel like it's going to instill the Jurassic Park, the feeling that we have, is going to be translated to our kids and to like that?
No, because I think when we saw that, we had never seen technology like that at that point, right? I mean, yeah, there had been attempts at CGI in movies, but not to that degree. And not that the CGI looks bad now; it still holds up great, right? But I think I mean, my kids love dinosaurs, and my oldest has been watching the Jurassic World Netflix show.
Oh,
she's watched all seasons, like
my kid watches Dana.
Yeah, 5 times. But like I think for her, like seeing the dinosaur there and like, oh yeah, I don't think it has the same impact.
Yeah.
As it did with us seeing dinosaurs on screen for the first time.
Now, my question is like, will it change as they get older? Because I mean, like I think I feel the same way. Like I think that like they'll watch the film and they'll be like 13, 10 or whatever the age we decide, like whatever. Because my oldest is 8, and I'm like, she might get to a point where I might be able to watch that with her. But will it be as exciting or whatever, or will it be something that like we'll watch at some other point as she gets older, and it becomes more impactful because of the fact that it's just a very solid movie, and it's not about the dinosaurs. It's about something much greater,
which all of its sequels I feel like have not hit that, right?
They didn't.
They felt like it's a dinosaur movie, so let's add more dinosaurs, right?
Correct.
And the Jurassic World movies tried to like involve more aspects of like. But
I think they came back to the same thing, that the problem that I talked about at the very beginning. Yeah. They were trying to make some bigger perspective or world, like impact. Like maybe we can make this into like some sort of like ongoing thing or whatever. I mean, they did a trilogy; it was fine. Did we ask for it? No, but I mean, it's fine. I mean, I think a new generation may feel something similar to what the crisp, with these new movies, but not nearly the same. No, whatever.
The last thing I do want to say that I think impacted me about this movie was the commercialization of it
after the fact. I
think of Jurassic Park. I think it was the first movie where I realized I went to the movie, I saw the dinosaurs, and then a few days later I went to the store and there's that Jeep I saw on on the screen, right?
yeah.
There's the dinosaurs on the screen.
Yeah.
And the toys, I couldn't have any because my older brothers could get the toys, but I was too young to have the toys. And it was just so impact. I didn't live through the era of A New Hope when it came out,
Right.
where that impacted the toy industry ridiculously. So I didn't experience that. And I think Jurassic Park was my first of like, here's a movie and you go to McDonald's and you can get a little toy there, or you go to Toys R Us and there's the Jeep that everyone loves and the dinosaurs. I think it opened my mind to be like, oh wow, like this is a whole thing.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, it's called multi. There's a whole term and a whole like. I mean, that's what Disney excels at.
Yeah.
You know. Anyways, freaking crazy stuff. All right, let's transition.
Let's talk about you. So you chose Remember the Titans. 2000, I think, is when this
Came out in 2000.
2000. Why this movie?
That's a good question. It was I like watched it on like a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it I legally downloaded. Don't come after me, whatever Disney or whatever. I illegally downloaded it and added it to my video iPod, and I would watch it all the time on my video iPod, and I think there was something. I mean, I didn't play football.
Yeah.
Actually, I did play one season of football. I hated it. I hated the environment. At least the environment that I was in. I mean, I think part of it is because Rev, not Rev. I can't remember the running back who like didn't do well and he got pulled over to the defense.
Yeah.
What's his name? No, I can't think of his name right now. I am literally so bad with.
Was it Petey?
Petey,
right?
Yeah. So Petey, he gets pulled, and it's because he didn't resonate with coach, right? With Coach Herman and his like strong, like he just wanted to be, to some degree, right? And I mean, I didn't grow up in that environment. My parents were from Mexico. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know what, and like I didn't know what.
Running back, linebacker.
I didn't know anything about football. I mean, I had friends who did, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. And my mom was like, okay. I hated it. But for whatever reason, this movie, like, I saw myself in different characters, and I appreciated the impact that individuals had on each other. Like you had, with Bertier and Campbell, as their friendship come together. Sunshine and his like out, coming in as an outsider coming in as a Latino, for whatever reason, I just connected with so many characters.
Yeah. And
it just felt like, you know what, I can help somebody, like whatever I do. Someone might come in, I might be the outsider or whatever, but I can come in because like Sunshine comes in and he tries to the big Louis Lastic.
Yeah.
They just come in, they're living life totally just like this is how life is, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But it was so, like the fact that it was that time period was so divisive and whatever. I don't know, it was just a really impactful movie. Also just the film, it was just character driven, right? So like a lot of really strong characters. Denzel Washington does a phenomenal incredible job.
Just wow.
It just resonated so well for me on like some sort of like spiritual soul, like spiritual like aspect of it. And I remember watching, like I turned it on and I was like, oh, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, this is, and like, it's a sports movie.
It is.
It's a sports movie, hands down, from front to back. But there, I think that the fact that it had more of like a racial, that story of racial impact it just, I don't know, really strong for me.
I think that's key because I think up to that point, like, I mean, Hollywood has a history of making, movies about the civil rights and the divide. And I think up to that point, like, the only movie that I knew about like civil rights or like racism really was like, I don't know, Glory with Denzel, which it's not a movie you really sit down and like watch. It's long and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And it's a sports movie, that incorporates the divide that's happening in the country, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me as a kid, I'd watch that. I'm like, oh, there's themes here. There's something to like really dig into, and it's teaching us about brotherhood, about segregation through the point of view of a small local school,
Yeah.
right? And I also think that's what's so great about, I think this time watching it, as I was watching it over the weekend, was this movie just starts and it goes.
It starts and it goes. That was the thing. It was, so as a filmmaker, because I'm like, why is it that I like this movie? From the very get-go, you're not introduced into some like whatever. Literally, you're dropped in, and I think within 3 minutes, you don't like the premise is not the integration. The premise, like the conflict, the actual like inciting incident is Coach Herman getting the head coaching job.
Yeah.
That is the inciting incident that really is the propelling motivator for the rest of the film. Right. And it's not the racism. It's not the thing. And that, but it, you literally are you're hot dropped into that spot. Like there's the arguing in front of the like store, you know, the them moving in, there's like the whispering with the, you know, like the whole thing. Herman, the conflict with Herman and the assistant coach, when he's like, I'm here to meet with, you know, Coach Yost. This is the time I was slotted for.
Yeah.
The tension's already set. So the fact that like, you know, the real conflict that comes in is that coaching thing is what, you know, is so surprising. That was the thing that really like, sort of I'm like, holy crap. Like it is, you're right into it. You're like, they're not giving any sort of like premise or build up or whatever. It literally is, this is how it is. And I think what it comes, and then it comes, I think it kind of comes into first full circle when after Coach Yost has his daughter come to Coach Herman's house, and the brick gets thrown through the window, and Yost is all like, you know, you shouldn't antagonize them or whatever. He's like, well, maybe now you understand a little bit of my world, you know. And I think really this movie is about Yost, not Herman, in this aspect.
That's true.
Because Yost doesn't take a huge role in a lot of stuff.
No, he doesn't.
But his daughter is she gives the opening VO and the closing VO, right? But and I think what it is that we are Yost as filming, like as a people, as the audience.
As the audience,
we're someone who we're not against something. We're trying to be good people because he's a good person.
He's a good person, and his job is being threatened, right?
Yes.
Like you said, it's not that the movie doesn't take a point of view of saying like, oh, Yost might be a little bit racist. No, it's just like, no, I'm hoping to be nominated to the All-Star this year, right? And someone comes and takes my job, right? So there's the thread, like you mentioned. The premise of the story isn't like, here we are in racism.
Like this coach is racist.
Yeah, it's no, like I'm a single parent, which she explained. Like mom walked out on us. And I've loved football ever since. And my dad's going to be All-Star this year. And now someone's threatening that.
I think what's also kind of impactful for me, is, especially watching it over this weekend, was like the whole scene in Gettysburg. They run. He's like, we're not running a military, man. That scene, man, it gets me every single time.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the fact that like he's like, we're still fighting the same fight there, and I would almost argue that film, like, is it like even though we're not necessarily dealing with segregation or whatever, there is all across the country we're dealing with all sorts of other things that are still dealing with, like we just had, there was I lived in Memphis. There was a huge shooting in Memphis, or a beating where the black guy got beat and then died. Right, with these police officers. Yeah. It was recorded. There was a huge thing. I don't know all the full details, so I don't want to get into it. But like those are the things that like, and then you have like Asian hate and all these other things.
Yeah,
these aspects are still happening. Like I said, I think really this film is not about racism. It's about impact. You have like individual impact, and what that does for a community, or even like a team, your working environment,
Yeah.
and how that can really have a huge impact, on a macro level rather than a micro level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's good. I think along those lines, you bring up being in Gettysburg, and that's where that impact happens is when Coach Boone invites them to just learn something new about
yes.
who you're rooming with, right? It isn't like
He says, I don't care
what it is, just learn something, right? And it's making those small connections individually so that it impacts the team, so that way they can go back and it has an effect on the high school, which then impacts the community.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to your point, that's what the movie is about. It's about the impact that an individual can have with a group,
Yeah.
to a group, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great movie. I think, and from a perspective of of the filmmaking, I think this movie, if you're ever wanting to learn how to perfectly break down Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, this movie does it perfectly.
Yeah.
Act 1 is the introduction, and it ends with them coming home from Gettysburg, right? And everyone's happy and excited. Act 2 begins when Julia says, "We're no longer at camp anymore. We're in the real world, right?"
Not only that, but because he comes back and he says, listen, it was after the first game, they didn't think you were going to make it through camp. So if you lose or anything happens, you're out of a head coaching job, right?
So now we're introduced to that conflict there of this individual character.
Correct. Yeah. Right. And again, the conflict that Herman and Yost, even though it's not verbally or very visually depicted, there is Yost doesn't know, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, other people probably know because of the whole, the scene where Yost comes back and he's like, "Don't worry, we'll take care of we'll take care of everything. Yeah, you're good as done. You just wait till after this game, right? And you'll be head coach again, and you can get your Hall of Fame. Yeah, right. And I think that's where we see Yost really come in perspective, and he makes his decision at that moment. Yeah, what type of person am I going to be, right? And I think that what is really great about this is that there is a clear transform. Whereas in Jurassic Park, there is a clear story and there's transformation, but it is over this the whole island and the story itself. In Remember the Titans, it's each individual character's journeys. Yeah, that have individual impacts at different times, and so you have these little cadences that give you the reward at different times for different connections, right, and those journeys, that is really impactful for me, right? I'll watch this. I don't think I watched Remember the Titans in probably 12 years.
It'd been a while for me too. Yeah.
But I remember rewatching it, I was just like, this is cinema.
It's really good.
Right.
With that, what is your favorite scene in this movie?
What is my favorite scene? My favorite scene is when Julius Campbell goes to Gary Bertier's house.
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite scene.
Really?
Dude, stop. Yeah. I have it written down. I have stars right on my mind. Go.
Okay, so I think the reason why this scene is my favorite is because it's the epitome of what can happen when you're willing to open up with someone or with a community or with an individual, and even if you're different, right? Even if you're different, and that it's still nervous. You have nerves. It's a little bit like you're unsure about stuff. I mean, kind of compared to dating or whatever. But he's nervous about being in the neighborhood. The people are nervous. The police officer shows up. The cop shows up. I mean, you're like, oh shit. Yeah. But then having him, the police officer saying hey, great game. And then going in and Julius hugging, like Campbell, like, you know, in Latin culture, it's like mi casa es tu casa. Campbell is trying to create that. He's realizing that the world is moving on, and he's like, this is what my life is now. And you know what? Maybe I haven't been around the best type of people. And, you know, like his mom is a single mom as well, right? You know, we don't know what Julius Campbell's background is like.
Sure.
What his background is for his family, right? But he comes over, gives Miss Campbell a hug. It is a very short scene, but it's a very impactful scene to me.
Yeah.
You know, because like I've been in those situations. I was one of those people where I'm like, I don't really know if I'm like
welcome here.
I'm really welcomed here or whatever.
Yeah.
But you just like, this is I love your son, or I love, your daughter or whatever, and like I'm here, and I'll, you're part of that life.
Yeah.
So, hi, I'm here. Right. What was it for you?
I think it's that culmination that it all leads up to them just having that love for one another.
Yeah.
And literally, like you mentioned, literally opening up his arms to hug his friend, to hug his brother, and to be welcomed into the home. I think as a kid, right? The movie came out in 2000. I'm in junior high, about to start high school, and you gravitate to your friends. You want to have that relationship. You want to have that brotherly love with your friends, right? And to see it on screen and be like, yeah, man.
Well, I think Remember the Titans is it 100% is about brotherly love.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I don't know how many other movies up until this point. Like I would have to do some digging, but I don't know how many other movies have a lot of real, people talk about sports and that causes that connection or whatever. But at the end of the day, men don't talk about that very often.
No.
We've gotten better now, I think. Hey, dude, I love you, bro. Let's, let's go get food. What's going on? What's happening? Whatever. But I think up until the generation prior to that, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it was a huge impact, right? In this face that this is something that should be, it's even accentuated because of the race situation, right? I don't know. I'm glad because I wasn't sure when I first said it. I was like, I don't know. And then when you're like, hey, what's yours? And I'm like, Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. That's what I think part of it is I needed that movie, and I think it helped me do some hard times in giving me the tools in a way to help me understand or overcome some of the challenges that I don't even, I can't think of it back, but as a high school kid trying to come up, what I want to feel. Maybe I'm not feeling connection, but I can help create connection, right? I can be that person that says, hey, come on over. Hey, you know what? We need to get to know each other, right? Or let's get to know each other, right? Rather than we need. It's let's get to know each other.
Yeah.
You want to come? Hey, you want to come to my house? Let's go watch a movie or whatever it might be, right? And because I did marching band, and so there's something about in band. We had one band, one sound. Right. No one in marching band, you had to move your feet, play to the time of the music, had to create formations. And if you were too loud, you had to blend with each other, and you wanted to sound like music, not just like an individual. Yeah. Right. Very similar to any other sports or whatever, the fact that you're trying to be a team or whatever. So I don't know. It's there. And I think it's a movie that you can watch, you watch and you're like, man, that was a phenomenal movie. And you're reminded of some of the those eternal lessons that life can give. Oh yeah. Fun. I did some research after because I watched it. Gary Bertier actually had his accident. This is the blessing of movies, right? Yeah. It was way better that he had the accident prior to the last game, even though in real life he had it after. He actually died. So they didn't say how he died. So I was looking up Wikipedia, right? He actually died from a drunk driver who crashed into him.
Yeah, I think they mentioned it at like at the end
Oh, yeah,
credits,
you're right,
right when
you're
they're
right.
like give a quick, it just said died of a drunk driver or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It was very
But it was a car crash, dude.
yeah,
Like that guy, like rough luck. I mean, like having to,
yeah.
he, you know, he lost his like, it, you know, became paralytic or paralytic because of a car accident, and then died from a car accident.
Died from a car accident.
Brutal.
That's
You know what the thing is, like, it wasn't that long ago, dude. 1981.
when he died. Yeah,
Yeah, and like when all that's 1971.
yeah,
You know, like it's crazy to think about. Like that's when segregation, like they
was beginning to the
Yeah.
segregate
Yeah, brains.
words. No, that's true. Going back to that though, I remember the first time I watched it. The movie starts with like we're at a funeral,
funeral.
right? And you know she's talking about it. You get caught up in like the excitement of the movie, of the team, of them making it to state. That when that car crash scene happens, oh my gosh,
Every time.
every time like it comes out of nowhere, and you're just as a viewer, you're just kind of like, whoa, oh, we're going down this. Oh, is he the one that dies right now? And but later we find out, right? 10 years later, but it's just that's why I love this movie as well, because it's just you get caught up in like the excitement, and then at the very end, oh, this happens,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just going back to that brotherly love, and then when Julius gets to the hospital, gosh, man, every time, every time,
Every time I think, I'm like, I started watching. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna tears.
And, you know, and oh, we're only allowing Ken to come in. Oh, can't you see that he's my
my
brother? Right? Like it's so good.
That line.
And so impactful, and then you realize, okay, like this is what we've been building up, this brotherhood, this family that they've created amongst themselves, and just to see the characters finally just give each other, hold hands, and really express that love for one another.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
What? Okay, so out of, yeah, I don't know. I think both these films, like, they really, like, one on one end is more about the lesson,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is just about the art.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, like, that's why we end up watching movies,
That's
because
why we watch movies.
to a degree we want to be entertained, or we want to feel,
Yeah,
and that's, I mean, to me, that's like the beauty of this art form.
Yeah.
Like, movies, I have a huge respect for music producers,
Mhm.
because they're literally, those guys are wizards, man.
Yeah.
But filmmaking is like the culmination of all art forms. And I think, like, it's, sometimes it hurts me to think about, I can't think about it too much because then I get a little emotional, because of the fact that, like, we just have so much content.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have so much out there that we sometimes forget, like, to, like, just watch a movie because it can be really impactful.
Mhm.
Or whatever, right? Or, like, like Netflix might put out a movie, or Amazon or whatever, and it's actually a really powerful movie, but we don't get the same effect because we're gonna have another movie next week.
Yeah. We need to see the next thing coming out.
Right.
No, that's true.
And I think that, like, sometimes I miss, and maybe, like, I don't know, maybe I'm getting to a point where, like, I'm feeling more like Tom Cruise, where, like, this is cinema, we're gonna have everything, we're gonna have, it's like, we need, like, that's, and I think honestly that's what might end up why theaters will still be a thing, because, like, we have Avatar, right? Like,
Right.
there's the experience of, like, what's this like in, like, a group together, whether you're, like, because there's nothing. I mean, I'm sure, I can't remember. I think I watched this in theaters,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure we were all walking out. I'm not crying,
Yeah.
but, or, like, grown ass
Right.
men walking out there, like, with their wives, and their wives just like, finally, something.
You're crying.
You actually have feelings, right? But that's what it is, man. It's about those two things, right? The art, or the being able to tell something that is outwardly,
Mm-hmm.
or that is just so true that you know, like that helps make your soul feel that connection to something.
Yeah, yeah. Great choice, man. Great choice.
Dude, fan of, absolutely. I'm glad we did this the first episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Fear and love. That's what the, like, I mean,
So true. You're right.
where can you find us? Well, we're going to have a YouTube channel, and you can find us on Anchor at fm.fm or wherever you get your podcasts, called Reel Chums. And you can follow me at Danny.Rubio or Danny_Rubio, anything with Danny Rubio. Actually, Rubio TV. My apologies. Rubio TV, almost anywhere on the internet. Marcel?
I'm on Twitter, and I actually don't even know what my Twitter handle is. Yeah, I'm on Twitter at MarcelD0112.
Oh man, I wish it was 007. You can see if we change it. I think so. I don't know. Maybe they might have some rules now. We'll do it after this.
We'll look at that.
Thank you guys for watching for the first episode of Reel Chum. I'm Danny Rubio.
Marcel?
We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thanks, you guys. We'll see you.